Motivation is the process of initiating, maintaining, and guiding goal-oriented behaviors. It is what motivates you to take action such as grabbing a drink of water to quench your thirst or reading a book to expand your knowledge. The biological, emotional, social, and cognitive variables that activate behavior are all part of motivation. Through different behavioral processes, an organism's tendency to preserve stability or homeostasis. Temperature regulating, for example, is accomplished through shivering, sweating, or panting, while satiety is attained through the commencement and the cessation of feeding behavior. In other words, it is called homeostasis. Motivation is heavily influenced by homeostasis. You need the ongoing regulating and adjustment that homeostasis provides to be motivated. It is necessary to regulate the body and brain in order them to be motivated. The over-justification effect reduces motivation because the intensive is located in external possession rather than the activity. Cognitive dissonance can be a powerful motivator. This function allows the body to recognize and correct imbalances. Maslow's theory is based on a simple premise. People have needs that are arranged in order of importance. There are some basic requirements that all humans have, and without them, nothing else matters. Until these needs are met, we are dominated by them. When our basic needs are met, they no longer serve as motivators. We can move on to the higher requirements.
Motivation is the process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-oriented behavior. It involves the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces that activates our behavior. In our everyday usage, the word motivation is frequently used to describe why a person does something. It is the driving force behind human actions. On the other hand, the homeostasis refers to the body's need to reach and maintain a certain state of equilibrium. The term homeostasis was first used by a physiologist named Walter Cannon in 1926. Homeostasis refers to the ability to regulate various physiological processes to keep internal states steady and balanced. This process takes place mostly without our conscious awareness. To sum up that too, motivation refers to the activating states directing a person towards the attainment of a specific needs or goals. And homeostasis, on the other hand, is the tendency of the body's system to maintain an optimal state or level. So regarding to the YouTube documentary video, it tackles a big issue of modern slavery or sex trade on vulnerable minor women. It mainly focuses on the minors in the Subic Bay here in our country who has to sell their bodies for sex with foreign old men. It saddened me on what the two girls had experienced, and what is really sad in that documentary is that some of our local police officers were seen getting out of one of the club that these two minor girls are. And the people who's trying to save that two girls from that kind of work are not even a local here in our country, but are retired police officers from Australia and an Irish Catholic priest. It's really upsetting how many minors or even adults have to do that kind of job and being sexually exploited. Life is really hard these days, especially when you don't have a nice job. And these girls in that documentary video have no choice but to sell their bodies because of poverty. I'm really hoping that someday, when we already have a good governance, there will be a time that we will be able to eradicate all this injustice, corruption, and poverty here in our country.
Connecting motivation and emotion to the attached video this week, I'll use the Cannon-Bart's theory in theories of emotion and sexual behavior. Let's start with sexual behavior. What is sexual behavior? It refers to the genital activities in which an individual engages. A research in 1996 where they observed 700 people having sexual intercourse and other sexual pleasure imaginable to study physiological responses to sexual behavior. Based on the observations, William Master and Virginia Johnson divided the sexual response cycle into 4 phases. That is excitement, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. These phases are seen on men and also in women. First, the excitement phase is the arousal phase in the cycle. You see those Australian coots going to Subic aroused by the idea of getting laid. In the plateau phase, these men experience full erection and often exhibit pre-ejaculation fluid and increased muscle tone. Third is the orgasm phase. Pelvic contractions are accompanied by a buildup of seminal fluid near the urethra that is ultimately forced out by the contraction of the genital muscle. Last is the resolution. This phase they return to an unaroused state and pass to a refractory period. It's a period of time that follows an orgasm which an individual is incapable of experiencing another orgasm. Explaining these four phases clarified their motivation of why they're in Subic and how they want to spend their vacation. The other that I'm going to talk in this video is the Cannon-Bard's theory. The theory is that we see the stimulus or notice the stimulus, and then we experience the physiological response at the same exact time we experience the emotion. The theory argued that the response and emotion occur simultaneously. The scenario that illustrates this, the raid on one of the bars. When the owner Benjamin was caught hiding minors, the stimulus is the boss and his physiological response is in flight mode. Behind that calm, collected demeanor. The emotion really can't tell, but one thing is certain. He's scared to go to jail. The way he denies the allegation he's accused of.
An early theory of motivation proposed that the maintenance of homeostasis is particularly important in directing behavior. Homeostasis is the tendency to maintain a balanced or optimal level within a biological system. One way that the body elicits this behavioral motivation is by increasing psychological arousal. Homeostasis involves three key features. One prominent theory of human motivation, known as drive reduction theory, suggests that homeostatic imbalances creates needs. This needs to restore balance drives people to perform actions that will return to the body to its ideal state. In the crime documentary, visually representing the sex trade issue that has begun that had been going on in Subic, Philippines. It talks about this old guy in his 40s that has raped an underage girl. As awful as it is, this is one of the biggest motivation that is based on the concept of homeostasis. How? Because deviations can actually bring the system back to homeostasis and helps on a person's psychological needs. It's not to excuse what this horrendous human did, but to learn more that this comes from motivation and a need to reduce internal tension that is caused by unmet needs. In this case, sexually, the guy hasn't been getting sex from people around his age, and so as the hunger settles in, it creates a motivation to find it from someone else. He targeted a vulnerable child to be able to release that tension and to restore balance. It's a disgusting way of relief, but some people resort to deviations just to get what they want.
Motivation can be stimulated by uncomfortable or aversive condition or events such as shocks, loud noise, or excessive heat, or cold to, can motivate us to seek better conditions, or attraction to positive or pleasurable condition or events such as food or sex. We also become motivated when we're deprived of something that we want or need, like adequate nutrition or social contact. For example, Michelle and Marcel's mother, because of their poverty and needs in life, she didn't seem to think that Michelle was her child and what will be Michelle feel about it, and agreed to sell it to Marco Gonzalo for 1,000 pesos in exchange for the child and the virginity of the child. Another example of this is Marcos Gonzalo, who no longer cares if Michelle is a child and just implement laws in the body and takes virginity even against the will of the child. And the child didn't do anything because she was being threatened to be killed if she refuses. Emotion and motivation are linked in several ways. Both influence behavior can lead us to take action, and emotion itself can act as a motivator. For example, while Michelle was talking to a former police officer from Australia, she was scared and couldn't stop crying every time she talked about what she went through at the hands of Mr. Gonzalo. And when the former policeman showed the photo of Marcos, the girl was surprised and forced to smile just to hide her fear, but eventually burst into tears because she remembered that when she tried to leave their room, the man threatened to kill her, so she and the child never can stop crying because of the trauma she had experienced.